Super spent on gambling and alcohol. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I've got my stein of coffee that's helping me get through this article. And today, I thought we'd have a look at this one from the ABC, discussing, well, where people spent their superannuation withdrawals. Now, for those of you that aren't aware, there was an opportunity, if you met certain criteria, for you to take an early withdrawal from your superannuation. Now, here in Australia, we're all forced to pay into super. 9 up to, I think, 12%. You get all these other perks if you're in the civil service of your wages go into super. And it's locked away until retirement. There's certain tax benefits, but it's also quite frustrating for people when you see a big chunk in super and you're struggling to save to get a house. Now, many people withdrew from their super. I've been advocating for people to have access to their own money to spend as they wish. But then things like this happen, and my advocacy for that kind of takes a bit of a beating. People aren't spending the money sensibly. You know, if you take your super out, and you're going to lose all this potential compounding interest, but if you use it to attack debt, if you use it to buy a long-term asset which can improve your quality of life, like a house, those are sensible things, I would argue. Getting rid of a 20% credit card debt probably isn't the worst thing in the world if you cut it up and destroy it. But spending it on gambling, booze, and takeaway food, that's a little depressing. Well, that shows me, one, that the financial literacy in our civilization is exactly where one would expect it to be. I guess that's why things like payday lenders and Afterpay are so popular. You know, just think about that. Afterpay is Australia's great, one of our most recent financial and international success stories. How does that make you feel, guys? It ain't no hills hoist, is it? Emergency access to superannuation during the pandemic shock has triggered a spending spree for some Australians who were splashing cash on gambling, alcohol, and takeaway food rather than essential household items. And I had one viewer reach out to me, and he works in the car industry, and he said there was all of a sudden these flash of people coming in asking for cars at $10,000. Or what do they have for $20,000 if it was a couple? Because that's where the super was going, buying a new car. Real-time bank transaction data crunched by the advisory firm Alpha Beta and Ilion shows that many people dipped into their retirement nest eggs have increased spending on lifestyle items rather than using the cash as a lifeline. A sample of 13,000 people who accessed their super under the early release scheme showed 64% of spending went on discretionary items, such as clothing, furniture, restaurant food, gambling, and alcohol. 64%, guys. Damn, that's a bit disappointing, isn't it? That's a bit disappointing. And see, these are the type of numbers that the people who argue that you're too dumb to control your own finances or save for the future will use. And, well, I mean, can you argue with it, really? I'd say this is the fault of our education system, but credit and debit card data shows that early super access recipients who withdrew on average 8 of the 10,000 maximum spent. And I wonder if that's because they were smart and only wanted to withdraw $8,000, or if that's all they had in their super. Just think about that. There's a whole lot of people with super that's so small it's insignificant in the long term. And people will say, oh, it'll compound and make this fortune. But then, you know, oh, they had income protection there, insurance they didn't even realize. They had this other insurance that they're never going to access that they didn't realize. All just chipping away at it and these fees. Anyway, they spent nearly $3,000 more than normal on the fortnight after receiving the withdrawals. Two most common spending increases were debt repayments. 14% of the extra spending was used to repay personal debts, including credit cards, buy now, pay later bills, and other bills. So I guess that's good. That's good. Paying off debt, smart. And gambling, which gobbled up an average of 327 of the 2,855 in additional spending. Okay, so it's not like they're pumping everything in gambling. It's not like they're putting the $8,000 in gambling. I'm sure there's some people that did. I'm sure there's some stupid cases that just took it all and put it on black. Maybe it won, but maybe it didn't. It appears calls for some real estate agents for tenants to withdraw super to keep paying their rent were unheard, with just $122 of the $2,855 passed to landlords. So here it is. Debt repayment was the highest. Then gambling, then groceries, then clothing, then automotive fuel, then restaurants, furniture, tobacco, rent, home improvements, telecommunications, apps and games, government and council services, and utilities. So the encouraging thing is the highest amount of this spending was used to pay down debt. That's good. That's good news. So this 64% is kind of a bit deceptive, isn't it? It should read, majority of Australians use, or most of the super withdrawal is used to decimate debt. That would be a great headline. That would be encouraging. But I mean, this is ABC. They've got a bias. They want to parent you. Alpha Beta Director economist Andrew Charlton told the ABC's AM program, AM radio, that still exists, that 40% of the recipients did not actually suffer a drop in their income so far during the pandemic crisis. That tells us as much of this money was used for lifestyle reasons rather than necessity reasons. Well, no, we see here the majority of it used to pay debt. Depending on the rate that you're paying on that date, it may be a smart investment. Definitely for stress relief. I know we had one viewer who was mentioning in the comments that he took it out and he paid it off his student loans just to reduce that burden. Because that's the frustrating thing. You can have this money sitting here and you've got this other debt that you're just chipping away at when, even though the interest's nothing, you don't want that stress. I can understand that. Superannuation is there for retirement, not for crisis. If someone used super money to buy a $20 pizza, that pizza might end up costing them $150 at the time of their retirement. It will be the most expensive pizza they've ever bought. Now, when I was doing Uber, I remember this is back when crypto was going all gangbusters, and I was talking to one guy about it, and he used to use his Bitcoin to buy marijuana. And I said, shit, mate, that's the most expensive joint you ever bought. And he goes, yeah, it was. I mean, this is when it went up to 20 grand, guys. Mr. Carlton is concerned that the roughly $15 billion taken from super so far will erode future retirement savings as savers miss out on compounding returns. The ATO data showed nearly 1.3 million early releases of superannuation access. Applicants have been approved, with many taking the maximum of $10,000. This is their money. But Dr. Charlton said the criteria for applicants is flawed and has urged the federal government to urgently review the program and tighten the guidelines. Yes, but it's people accessing their own money. The policy has been poorly designed. You just need to show you have a 20% reduction in hours during 2020 with no income verification. It was able to be accessed ticking a few boxes, so it was a tempting prospect for lots of people, or they seem to have taken advantage of it. However, Treasurer Josh Frydenberg defended the rights of people taking money out to spend as they wish. Yes, yeah, fundamentally, it's your money. It's the state forcing you to pay your money into these super funds. And some of the super funds you may not ideologically agree with. How many people are putting all their money into these union-controlled funds? Particularly after we've seen what happened with the casual workers on the coal mines. Do you want to be associated with any of those unions? This is their money. They will use that money for a range of purposes, he told reporters. But we're going through a once-in-a-century pandemic, and people do need that extra funding and that extra financial support over and above our government's initiatives to help them get through this period. Now, this money is tax-free, and that's been an important initiative by the government, and it's been welcomed. See, there's the thing. You don't need to pay tax on it, so there's an instant benefit to it. So we are comfortable with the fact that people are accessing the money when they need it. The government debt will take 36 years to pay off. Well, will it ever be paid off? Advisory firm PricewaterhouseCoopers. Thank you for everyone who corrected me in the comments that it's not Prince. I think Prince sounds a lot classier. Was there ever a PricewaterhouseCoopers firm? Let me know. Let me know. It's been a long time since I was studying economics and commerce, guys, a long time. And there's a reason why I dropped it. It wasn't very exciting. Advisory firm PwC warns that without major tax reform, surging debt levels will remain at eye-watering levels and take more than 3 decades to pay down. Predictions by PwC show that returning the federal budget to surplus could take an additional 19 years without comprehensive tax reform, with the return to zero debt delayed to 2056-57 because of ballooning deficits. So we're never going to reach it. We're never going to reach it. For Australians aged around 18, it will probably take until their late 30s to see a budget back in surplus, according to PwC partner Paul Abbey. And they may not be in their 50s, before the government has been able to pay down the debt. Mr. Abbey says while tax reforms are urgently needed to encourage economic growth, they need to be on hold until the pandemic crisis has passed. We need to simplify our tax system, guys. We need to simplify it. Tax reform in the midst of an economic shock will pose further disruptions to households and businesses that are already being asked to change on many fronts, he said. The combined impact of the summer bushfires and the early economic impact of the pandemic will become clear on Wednesday when official GDP data for the first 3 months of the year is released. We'll have to keep an eye out for that tomorrow, guys. Economists expect the economy to have contracted by about 1/3%, with growth over the year of 1.4%. However, what is expected to be a mild contraction is seen as the prelude to a much sharper second quarter contraction, confirming that Australia is experiencing its first technical recession in almost 3 decades. So a nice way to end this article. So, some good signs. The majority of the money, sure, they spend it on gambling, alcohol, and food, but that's people's rights. They can. Maybe they need it for stress relief. Maybe buying a bit of Uber Eats or takeaway because you're afraid of the pandemic. It's sensible. But the majority of it was spent on debt paying down. And that encourages me right there. Getting out of debt. Getting out of debt. Is this going to be a sign that people have woken up, that they're going to go, never again will I be in this situation? Maybe. Maybe my beard will turn back to its original color and not white. You know, people will turn a new leaf. We'll see. As always, thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and you'd like to support this content, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us via our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay or Independent Reserve and Kucoin. You can buy a merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, guys. I'll see you in the next video.